Hello, British Lit Scholars. Welcome to the second week of the fall 2017 semester. All right, so last week we gave you a little background of what led up to. If any of you have ever wondered whether I have a dog or not, you now have your answer. Anyway, last week we set the background and set the stage for what would end up leading into the first period of literature that we are going to speak about this semester, which is Romanticism. So, simply put, it's kind of important, especially the stuff that's recent to the Romantic period, to understand just what it is that authors such as William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge were trying to write differently from. So, that Age of Reason, when we got the Age of Reason, and you'll see it again when you go through the slideshow for the introduction to Romanticism, it featured authors like Alexander Pope, Jonathan Swift, Samuel Johnson, Samuel Pepys, and many other authors who thought that writing should be an art and it should be only for the upper classes. They scoffed at any literature that was designed to appeal to the common folks. But you're going to learn as you go through your introduction to Romanticism. There's the reading, and then of course there's the slideshow. And that slideshow can be helpful when you take the quiz. You're going to learn that the masses were starting to become more literate. More and more people actually had the ability to read than at any time prior to the Romantic period. That meant an explosion in the printing industry because all of a sudden they needed to publish books, and they needed to publish pamphlets and poems and anything that these people with a voracious appetite for reading could get their hands on. So that's one of the reasons why the Romantics wanted to appeal to the common folks, because that's where their audience was. You know, if you're going to sell 10 books to highly educated snobbish people and 1,000 books to common people, well, by golly, where do you think you're going to make more money at? So it makes sense that the poetry and the writings of the time were going to be more accessible to the common folks. And you're going to see that when you read William Wordsworth's preface to Lyrical Ballads. Understand, if you look through the syllabus, you're not going to have to read the whole introduction. You only have to read the what is a poet and then the tranquility part. So those are the only two parts that you're actually going to have to read. So be aware of that. And look at his argument. Look at how he defines what a poet is. Look at how he defines what the purpose of poetry is. And then you're going to have your reading quiz. The reading quizzes are open book, so you can go through them. I would not recommend that you take the quiz as you're reading them. I'd recommend that you read through everything at least once, and then take the quiz where you have an idea of kind of what's in there already, and then you can verify if you need to. Especially that part about the preface to Lyrical Ballads. There's only a couple of questions out of there, but you're not going to be able to skim and get to that. You're going to need to take some notes as you read to make sure that you get those questions correct. And then we're going to ask how both Wordsworth and Coleridge are going to apply the theories that Wordsworth espouses in his preface to the poetry that they write. In Wordsworth's case, We Are Seven and I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, and in Coleridge's case, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Wordsworth and Coleridge were best of friends, at least for a while. They did have a falling out. Wordsworth is credited with having written most of the Lyrical Ballads. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, which is your Coleridge reading for this week, does come out of the Lyrical Ballads. But a lot of that was Wordsworth, and Wordsworth got to write the preface, which meant that he got to dominate the attitudes of poetry at the time. Coleridge would write something called Autobiographia Literaria, which would show his theories. And you can read that if you want to, but that's not required for this class. So, so the quiz is open book, but I would read everything first, then take the quiz. Then you have the weekly writings. And what you do is you'll write it on a Word document, say about 2 to 3 paragraphs, and then you'll submit that into the Dropbox. All of that is in the week 2 folder. So in the week 2 folder, you'll find PowerPoint slideshows to help you understand the history or the introduction to Romanticism, the William Wordsworth poetry, and the Samuel Taylor Coleridge poetry. So you'll find that in there, and then you will find the quiz in there, and then you'll find the Dropbox. You'll also find the directions. I want to caution you, read those directions closely, because they tell you what you need to know to get a good grade on this week's readings, or writing actually. And you'll need to read those directions each week, because there may be changes here and there. For the most part, they'll be very consistent, so you'll know what to expect. By the time we get to week 4, 5, and 6, you'll kind of have an idea of what you're expected of you. But always read those thoroughly. If you don't follow those directions and you get a low grade, I've put the directions in the writing as best I could. So I'm trying to help you to get a better grade, because believe me, I'd much rather give out a bunch of perfect scores on these postings than have to make a lot of comments and give out lower scores. So if you read those directions closely, you and I can both be happy, because you get your 10 out of 10, and I get to read your posting. I get to enjoy it. I might say good job, give you the 10, and move on. Be also aware that this is an English class. I'm taking the assumption that you have passed English 1101 and English 1102 if you're taking this class, and so I'm taking the assumption that your English 1101 and 2 teachers actually taught you something about grammar and spelling and such, so you'll need to apply those in this class as well. All right, and that's pretty much the way most weeks will go. There'll be some weeks where you have like ERA exams, but for the most part, most weeks for this entire semester will go readings, some PowerPoints to supplement those readings, a reading quiz, and then some kind of a reader response that you're going to have to write and submit into a Dropbox. And I assume you already know how to submit works into Dropboxes since you've gotten this far. So if you don't know how, there is a folder with the directions on how to do that in our class Georgia View page. All right, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this introduction to Romanticism. I really think you're going to enjoy both Wordsworth and Coleridge. Both of them write poetry that's accessible. Both of them write poetry that should be easy to understand. And Coleridge's tale, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, is really, really a good adventure story that I think you're going to really like. So on that note, happy reading. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through the Georgia View email, and I'll try to check that at least once a day so that I can get your answers to you as soon as possible.